Welcome to the Chill instructional video on how to change a jockey wheel. Jockey wheels come in different shapes and sizes depending on their use and application. At Chill, we employ the use of a swing style jockey wheel, as you can see. Jockey wheels, due to their mounting locations on the trailer, are subject to a lot of dust and road grime, as you can see here. This foreign particle will make its way up the central barrel to the mechanism, causing it to feel rough and gritty. These jockey wheels are subject to a lot of wear and tear, and sometimes some abuse as well. You can notice this here based on this handle. Notice how it's bent. This has happened because someone has left the handle down and a rock has hit the handle. Another thing that can happen with these trailers is that the trailers are overloaded when they're used on site. This causes the jockey wheel to crack, as you can see around the central pin, and this is the start of the end of this wheel. When a jockey wheel reaches the end of its life, it must be replaced. The Chill recommended process for this is to attach the trailer to a towing vehicle and make sure that the towing vehicle's handbrake is firmly applied. This will prevent the trailer from falling off the tow bar or onto the ground, causing a crush injury, as well as preventing it from moving forwards or backwards during work. If your trailer's jockey wheel is in good functional standards, it's just that you have a cracked wheel, then we'll start by replacing just the wheel itself. For this task, you'll need to make sure that you have a 19mm spanner and a 19mm socket, or alternatively 2 adjustable shifting spanners. We're going to start by making sure that our socket set is set to reverse. Place it over one bolt and the spanner over the other, and undo this bolt. The nut used on these jockey wheels is known as a Nylox nut, and this has a special nylon ring which stops it unwinding during transit. You'll probably notice that this nut will be quite tight the whole way through to the very end. Okay, the nut is now off. You need to remove the bolt, locate the new replacement wheel, slide the bolt through and retighten the nut. Now you need to make sure that you don't over tighten this bolt, as you need the wheel to be able to rotate. Over tightening the bolt will crush onto the wheel and will act like a brake, preventing the wheel from rotating. This will cause premature wear of the wheel, so if you over tighten, just back the nut off just a little bit, just to make sure that wheel can spin nicely. And that's job done. To determine if a jockey wheel has reached the end of its life or not, test the jockey wheel for movement in the swivel assembly. Movement in both directions is a sign that the jockey wheel has reached the end of its life and is in need of replacement. For this job, you'll need to make sure that you have a 19mm socket with a long extension bar. To start off, we're going to make sure that we are loosening all of the nuts. Now you only just need to loosen them a little bit, as these are not Nylox nuts, and you will be able to undo them with your fingers once the tension has been removed from them. Now it's useful to support the jockey wheel with your weak hand, just to make sure it doesn't fall when you undo the last 2 bolts. All 4 bolts are removed. This assembly will now lift off, and that can be recycled. Now inspect your mounting bolts and just double check them for any signs of fatigue or wear and tear. To me, these bolts look good and I'm happy to reuse them. So what we'll do is just line the bolts up roughly on the bar. You may find it easier for you to put one aside and just work on one bolt at a time. Bring in your new jockey wheel assembly. Notice how there are 4 holes on each side. We need to make sure that we're using the holes that lift the top plate as high as possible. So in our case, we'll be putting a bolt through the bottom hole and the bottom hole. So line up your U-bolts in the holes. This sometimes is a bit stiff and you may just need to tap the bolt through the plate. Use your weak hand once again to support the jockey wheel assembly, and we're going to apply a spring washer and a nut to each of the bolts. Just finger tight here is acceptable, as we're going to come back along and tighten everything up. And now we've got this on. The jockey wheel here is attached to the drawbar, but it's not secured. This is time for you to put your next U-bolt through. Make sure you use the same holes on each side of the plate, otherwise your jockey wheel assembly will be crooked. Now we're going to bring out the socket set. Make sure we're tightening, and we're going to start by just doing everything up just moderately tight. Do crisscross pattern. What we're doing here is making sure that the U-bolts are contacting the drawbar evenly on the back side of the drawbar of the jockey wheel plate. Once all of the bolts are snugged up, it's time to firmly tighten them up. They need to be done up quite tightly, but not enough to crush the drawbar. Okay, all bolts are tightened up. It's time to double check that the jockey wheel is functioning. That snaps in firmly. Jockey wheel winding successfully. Fold the jockey wheel back up for transport. Make sure the wheel is on top of the drawbar and the handle is on top of the drawbar. And the job is done. It's time to get back out on the road and deliver this trailer to a client.